Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to today's webinar hosted by Scottish Golf alongside our colleagues at the GEO Foundation for Sustainable Golf. For those of you who don't know, my name's Ian McFarlane. I'm Club Services and Media Officer at Scottish Golf. And once again, I'm delighted to introduce Dr. Robbie Fitzpatrick from the GEO Foundation, who'll take us through today's session. It's the fifth in a series with the GEO Foundation, and today's theme is how clubs can introduce a clear and credible sustainable golf pathway. Pleased to say that joining Robbie today is Caitlin Gracie, who is the Sustainability Coordinator at the Renaissance Club in East Lothian, better known as the host venue for the Genesis Scottish Open. Caitlin will reflect on how Renaissance used On Course, which is a free resource for all golf clubs in Scotland, to chart their sustainability journey and the positive benefits that this has brought the club. Just to say that today's session is recorded and will be later uploaded to the sustainability page of the Scottish Golf website. And there's also the chance for those joining us live to ask questions as we go along. You can do this just by popping your question in the chat function, and we'll address these as we go along. Okay, without further ado, I'll pass over to Robbie.
Hi everyone, thank you very much for attending. As Ian mentioned, my name is Dr. Robbie Fitzpatrick, and I've been working in sustainable golf for over 7 years now, focusing specifically on the topic of today's discussion, really how golf clubs can work through a clear, credible pathway to protect the environment while simultaneously strengthening the future of their business. Just a bit of my background, I completed an R&A funded PhD and then joined GEO Foundation around 2 years ago to drive ever greater innovation and impact at golf facilities around the world. In the previous webinars, we've covered key sustainability issues that are facing golf clubs around Scotland, including climate change, resource efficiency, and community engagement. In this, the final webinar of the 5-part series, as Ian mentioned, we're going to explore a clear, cost-effective, sustainable golf pathway for golf courses and clubs of every size and budget. I'll begin with a really brief introduction to GEO Foundation before briefly summarising some of the challenges facing golf clubs in Scotland. We'll then consider what sustainability means in very practical terms for a Scottish golf club and how the concept is fundamental to providing long-term value for your customers. I'll then delve into the practical programmes and tools that are available for golf clubs and how you can use these to address emerging issues and ultimately become more efficient, popular and profitable golf businesses. As we run through the pathway, I'll hand over to Caitlin Gracie, Sustainability Coordinator at the Renaissance Golf Club, to provide her reflections on how golf courses can use these programmes to drive sustainability and business benefits. Caitlin and Renaissance have recently been actively engaged in our sustainable golf programmes, and they've recently underwent a verification for their second GEO certification, so I'm sure Caitlin will be able to offer some positive tips and testimonials to help others make the most of the available tools for you to understand, improve and communicate your value. So just a little brief background on GEO Foundation. We were founded around 20 years ago and have become a real pioneer in what has become the sport and sustainability movement. We really help golf courses, golf clubs to understand, improve and communicate their sustainability efforts. And in so doing, we're really helping the golf sector to strengthen and safeguard the future of the game. We do this through tools, strategy, guidance, communications and advocacy for golf developments, golf facilities and golf tournaments as well. And these programmes are delivered in around 70 countries around the world. This is just a really brief summary of what we do at the Foundation. So we work really closely on collaboration. We've got strategic relationships with leading tours like the DP World Tour, the PGA Tour. We work really closely with governing bodies like the R&A, national federations like Scottish Golf, and also a lot of agencies, media and companies throughout the sector more widely. As I said, we deliver these partnerships and programmes in over 75 countries around the world, and a lot of them are based on cloud-based support programmes and tools for golf facilities, and we'll delve into these later in the presentation. We also offer credible recognition through our sustainability certification that's been developed specifically for golf facilities. And we really help you as golf clubs to share your story, to tell other people what you're doing, and to learn peer-to-peer about how you can drive more successful and profitable projects and practices through your work. And we also do a lot of data and reporting through the information that gets fed into our on-course programme. And again, I'll explore more of that in the pathway that we'll come on to near the end of the presentation. And just at the bottom there, all of those logos are just a quick representation of the breadth of organizations, the depth of organizations that we work with across golf and also more widely in the sustainability landscape. So I'll cover just a bit of general sustainability trends. I would refer you all back to the previous webinars that we did on specific issues where we go in more depth into these challenges, but we'll just provide a brief summary to kind of put this pathway in context for us all. So this climate strip that's appearing on your screen was compiled from the University of Oxford's climate records and shows the progression of mean annual global temperature between 1815 and 2018. It's the longest running climate record in the world and shows essentially the remarkable warming that we've experienced over the last 50 years. You can see there the deep red at the right-hand side of the graphic. And it's pretty clear that without relatively radical changes across all aspects of society, there will be greater and greater impacts on our communities and businesses, golf clubs included. This is just an example of how climate change is already having an impact across communities in Scotland and the UK. Think particularly about the increase in frequency and intensity of winter storms that we're experiencing, the wind, the rainfall, the issues of sea level rise and coastal erosion. And for Scotland in particular, models are showing that we're looking at warmer, wetter winters, drier, hotter summers, and ever-increasing climatic challenges into the future. Specific data, we're looking at around a 2 to 4 degree increase in monthly average temperature between 2020 and 2049, and a 4 to 8 degree increase in mean monthly temperature between 2050 and 2079. Likewise, we're looking at around a 50% increase in precipitation in the winter over the next 60 years and a 25% decrease in precipitation over the summer months. So really radical climatic changes that are having an impact on how we are able to manage landscapes effectively as business assets. And we're already seeing these impacts manifest at every level of a golf business. Again, looking at Scotland, we're seeing extreme weather, increased risk of flooding and coastal erosion, changing patterns of pest and disease pressure, and also rising operational costs and ever tighter budgets on golf clubs. The organisational impacts of climate change were illustrated in a recent survey conducted by Sporting Insights on behalf of the RNA. This is around 930 responses from across the UK. And as we can see, the main impacts and challenges can all be attributed to environmental and climatic pressures. So on the left-hand side, when golf clubs were asked, which of the following had an impact on your organisation over the last 12 months, flooding and waterlogging came out as number one, followed by the rising cost of consumables, rising cost of energy, and also hiring experienced and qualified staff. Likewise, on the right-hand side, what are the biggest challenges that you're likely to face? Again, operational costs, staff costs, high demand from golfers. So all of these are really interwoven with the climate, biodiversity, and resource crisis that we're facing as a society. At the back of that, there's also increasingly tight regulation around the use of certain resources. Golf can sometimes be seen as a waste of land and an exclusive game reserved for a kind of privileged strata of society. And we've seen more and more protests on the different tours, at local golf courses, and also at a European level, we're seeing more regulation around the use of pesticides, plant protectant products, fertilizers, and water. And there's also more and more demand for land, with around 68% of the world's population expected to be living in towns and cities by 2050. So there's more and more press and public scrutiny over the use of golf courses as a productive use of land in this changing sustainability landscape. So in the face of these challenges, the concept of sustainability is emerging as a solution, as a framework that we can use to address these challenges and move forward productively into more productive opportunities in the future. So just a really brief history of sustainability. It used to be quite a siloed concept where we would do the environmental stuff, we would do the economic stuff, and we would do the societal stuff. There's a lot of talk around business sustainability or environmental sustainability. And through time, we've started to kind of integrate these into a more holistic vision, a more holistic framework. And nowadays we talk about an integrated model of sustainability, a stronger model of sustainability. And that's really prioritizing the environment, because that's ultimately the limiting factor. Without clean air, healthy soil, the ability to grow turf grass, we're not going to have successful businesses. So the environment has to be a priority in how we think about these issues. But we can do the environmental stuff in a way that has social value, that has economic and business benefits. So it's about joining up the dots and thinking about this as a more holistic, integrated pathway forward for golf businesses. So at GEO Foundation, we've essentially distilled this integrated model of sustainability into what we call a sustainable golf framework. And this has 4 really simple focus areas that a golf business can focus on when they're looking to take sustainability and climate action. The first of these is fostering nature, looking at things like habitat and biodiversity, responsible turf grass management, and pollution prevention. The next is conserving resources, so looking at things like water conservation, energy efficiency, waste and material reduction. Then community aspects, so looking at things like health and well-being, how you engage productively with the community and society at large, and also effective communications and advocacy around sustainability and the benefits that you produce in society. And then woven through all of these is climate action. So that's looking at things like reducing your carbon emissions, sequestering more carbon dioxide into the landscape, and also mitigating and adapting to climate change and different environmental impacts at your golf facility. So 4 really clear themes and focus areas for you to really understand sustainability, to take productive action on the concept. And golf courses around the world are now starting to, or have been working to this framework for a number of years to derive business benefits. So looking at things like habitat and biodiversity, where I've seen more golf courses naturalising aspects of their landscape to save money and produce a more authentic, interesting golfing experience for their players. Responsible and integrated turf grass management, looking at ways to reduce their impacts through chemicals and fertilisers, and also to prevent pollution of the wider landscape in the way that the golf courses are designed and managed. In terms of resources, we're seeing more energy efficient measures, looking at things like heating and lighting systems, and more efficient ways to design and construct clubhouses. Also looking at things like machinery, electric motors, solar power, water, looking at water efficiency, targeting resources more effectively across the golf course landscape using things like sensors and precision irrigation systems. And then also waste management, reduce and recycle and reuse initiatives to try and firstly reduce costs from having to expend on different resources, and also keeping that value within the supply chain and the value loop that you have at golf facilities as well. Community efforts to ensure a safe and responsible golfing landscape, opportunities for professional development for greenkeepers and members of staff, efforts to engage younger players, more women, children, underrepresented communities, outreach and inclusion with the local community, collaborating with different organisations in society, inviting them into the golf course landscape to add more value to your business, and also effective communications and advocacy through things like press releases, social media, newsletters, signposts, and things like that, explaining and highlighting what you're doing at the golf facility. And then, as I mentioned, climate is kind of woven through these previous 3 focus areas, but looking at things like emissions reduction, again, through energy efficiency, carbon sequestrations through that naturalisation of the landscape, and also mitigation and adaptation measures. And as I said, most of these have been covered in previous webinars, and we delve deeper into each of these areas. So I would encourage you all to visit those previous webinars that are on the Scottish Golf website. And we have a number of leading experts in these different areas that explain the practical frontiers and developments that you can use to drive even further in these areas. So just to summarize, that sustainability isn't necessarily just something that kind of gets tacked on to the side of a business. It's not just about sticking up bird boxes. It's actually about integrating it into how you operate your golf facility. And there are a number of different benefits that can be gained through it. including mitigating climate change and future-proofing the future of your business. Cutting costs through resource and energy efficiency. Appealing to a wider demographic of players. When you make these sorts of changes, maybe to the golf course landscape, it can change how the golf course plays, and it might be an opportunity to get different demographics into the game. Likewise, through your sustainability communications, it might be a chance to target and reach out to different aspects of society. Younger people are more interested in sustainability, in organic foods, responsible clothing, and we're seeing early signs that golf is moving in that direction as well. So there's some really interesting marketing opportunities to be found through sustainability as well. There's a lot of new technologies moving into the sector. So there's a real opportunity there to attract, retain, and upskill staff and volunteers at your facility by engaging with the sustainability concept. Improved government and public relations. So again, through that communications and advocacy work, you're maybe able to tap into different sources of funding if you've got a clear sustainability plan or you're involved in clear sustainability frameworks. And also gaining recognition for your sustainability efforts. And that links back to the marketing aspect, where it's really important, and golf facilities are starting to celebrate and share what they're doing. And again, attracting more attention, attracting more funding, and attracting more support from across society as well. Okay, so we'll now delve into the sustainable golf pathway and run through some of the really accessible tools and programs that are available for you to take action on sustainability and start to derive a lot of these benefits for your golf facility. So this is a kind of overview representation of that pathway, and it really works step by step, but also loops back. And I'll just briefly explain, and then we'll delve into the different aspects in more detail. So the first step of that pathway is really to express your commitment to sustainability. And we do that through the Sustainable Golf Pledge, which we'll come on to. We then encourage you to use OnCourse, which is a free sustainability and climate action program. It's totally online and totally cloud-based. And you can use that OnCourse platform to track your social and environmental impact, use best practice checklists to understand where you're at. Are there future opportunities that we could look into developing at the golf course in terms of projects and practices? You can then, through the use of that OnCourse platform, get sustainability scorecards that help you to identify efficiencies, understand where you're using the most amount of resources, and you can look at ways to streamline and save more money. The next step of the pathway is to get recognised. As I mentioned, we offer a sustainability certification with other distinctions that you can use to celebrate your efforts, to share your efforts, and again, attract more of that support and funding for your golf facility. And then on the back of that certification, you'll essentially get a verifier that comes to your golf facility. They'll provide improvement points. We're starting to develop a forward action planner for golf facilities, so you can then take that certification and work it into a forward action plan so that you can plan future projects and practices to get more efficient, to have more impact, and ultimately to save more money and be more future-proofed against the different impacts that are emerging for golf facilities. And then once you plan and improve, it's then about, again, going back, reviewing and tracking, getting recognised again. And it's really a kind of nice cycle to help you gain momentum and continue to make progress into the future. So we'll delve just deep into the different aspects of this pathway. So to get started, this is about expressing your commitment, and this is done through the Sustainable Golf Pledge. This pledge is based around the framework that I just outlined: fostering nature, conserving resources, taking climate action, and strengthening community. And the value for your golf facility is that this provides a clear direction of travel. It lets people know that you're aware of the sustainability concept, you understand what sustainability means, and it can really help you to raise awareness and build momentum, both externally and also internally in your own operational teams and procedures. It's also a really important signal of social responsibility, and I've seen multiple examples where people have used this pledge to boost their public relations. You can put it on your website, you can put it in newsletters, you can print and frame it in the clubhouse or the maintenance facility. I've also seen golf courses add it into funding applications when they're applying for different pools of funding. They can let the funders know that they have signed the Sustainable Golf Pledge, and most funding comes attached with environmental criteria now, so it's a good way of ticking off some of those criteria for you. And it's also a good way of marketing your golf course out into the wider community. This pledge is fully backed by Scottish Golf. So you sign the pledge, we then send you this nice certificate, and it has the Scottish Golf logo there and also the GEO Foundation logo, with your clear commitment to nature, resources, community and climate. The next step of that pathway is to join On Course. This is totally free. As I mentioned, it's a sustainability and climate action program that's available for golf courses internationally. We're also working really closely with Scottish Golf to create a customised version of the platform that's bespoke for Scottish golf facilities. And On Course is essentially, when you join On Course, you get added on to what we call the Sustainable Golf Leaderboard. So you get a totally free profile page. That profile page has your club logo, it has a nice picture of your golf facility. If you've signed the pledge, your pledge will appear at the top of that. If you've had any certifications, that'll appear in the middle. And if you've submitted any highlights, they'll appear at the bottom. And you can link to this profile page from your website. You can link to it from social media. So it's a really great way of, again, representing the positive steps that you're taking for the world. And again, totally free to join On Course and get that profile page, even if you don't want to do any work in the platform. So I would encourage everyone to just sign up and get that profile page. And then you can use it for marketing or even just being on the leaderboard and having representation there. The next step is to review and track through On Course. So On Course is essentially built around the Sustainable Golf framework that I just outlined for you. It's got really structured themes and focus areas according to nature, resources and community. Within there, you'll find best practice checklists. There are around 600 best practices in there that have all been developed over several years through widespread stakeholder consultation with experts from around the world. And those best practice checklists come with different resources, they come with different materials, and also guidance on how you can get started and drive further on these different projects and practices that are there for you. There are also annual data inputs. So in On Course, you essentially can report things like your water consumption, your energy consumption, where the energy is coming from, what habitat you've got at your golf course, what land use you've got at your golf course. So this is a really great way to start to benchmark and understand where you're making improvements year on year. And when you input that data, you get custom reports back out. So that's a sustainability scorecard that will come onto, and that includes a comprehensive carbon footprint for you. So through that data you report, we essentially calculate your carbon emissions for you, how much you're emitting, how much you're bringing in through the landscape, and we'll then pinpoint different areas that you can start to find efficiencies at your golf facility. And On Course, that On Course platform is essentially the application method for golf's leading sustainability certification, which is GEO certified. So you essentially complete the best practice checklists, you submit your annual data for 1 year, and you can then apply to become GEO certified. And I'll come into that in a later slide. So this is essentially what a best practice checklist looks like. So it's nicely split into key action areas. So as you'll see, it's quite small, but the top left is habitat and biodiversity. So the first thing you could look at in habitat and biodiversity is understanding the landscape, understanding what habitats you have on the golf course. And then there's essentially lists of practices that you could take to start to understand the habitat on your golf course. And on the right-hand side, there's a button. You can click that button and up pops tons of guidance on how you can start to implement projects and practices around habitat. And again, I'll come on to that guidance on a later slide. But that's essentially what the best practice checklists look like. There's also space at the bottom of these checklists to add notes. So this is quite good for internal operations. So if someone in your team is responsible for looking at habitat, you can add a note to say X is responsible for surveying the habitat by the end of June. And then you essentially can keep track of the progress that you're making there, both internally, and it lets you know, the verifier know when they come on to the verification, what progress you've made around these different areas. So a really good internal tool, and also, as I say, a way of learning, and also your application method towards the certification. Annual data, as I mentioned, it covers key sustainable golf indicators, things like your land use, things like the amount of fertilizers you use, pesticides that you use, water that you're putting down, energy, electricity, waste, how much waste are you generating, how much have you raised for volunteering and charity, how many players did you have playing on your golf course over the course of the year. So really key indicators that you can then use to benchmark and track progress against. And as I say, they make their way into the Sustainable Golf Scorecard with your carbon footprint that you can use to find further efficiencies at your golf facility. And again, that data comes with bespoke guidance on how you can capture that data, how you can start to analyze and use that data to support your forward action planning as well. As I mentioned, this is what a scorecard looks like. This is the front page of a scorecard. So this is what comes back out of the end at the end of on course when you put in all of your annual data into the platform. This is essentially what it looks like. So it's a nice trended illustration of the impact that you're having on the environment and on communities. Again, great way to find efficiencies, understand where you're at, where you can make further progress. The scorecard also comes with nice infographics. Now, I've seen a lot of clubs use these in a lot of different ways. Some golf courses will take these infographics and stick them on their website. Others will use them in different newsletters. Others will put them in internal communication presentations. And they essentially highlight notable stats and figures about your golf facility. So things like we've made a 7% reduction in our nutrients per hectare of turf. We've reduced our top dressing applications by 15%. 71% of our suppliers are local. So they're great wee benchmarking tools that, again, you can use for internal operations or external communications. And again, lots of great examples about how clubs have integrated these into their websites and presentations and stuff like that to drive further progress. The scorecard also comes with a detailed carbon footprint. So these carbon footprints are really easy to understand. They basically show the emissions that you're producing at your golf facility, and they show the sequestration, an estimate of the sequestration, how much carbon your golf facility is pulling in through the environment, through the habitat and biodiversity on the site. And it essentially allows you to work out how close to net zero you are as a golf facility. Again, this is great for internal operations, pinpointing efficiencies. I've worked with a number of golf courses who have been struck by the emissions that are associated with things like their sand, things like their electricity consumption, and they've then worked to improve that over the coming years, and again, in so doing, saving money. The carbon footprint also comes again with nice infographics that you can use around your impact on the climate. And it also comes with a strategic climate action plan that's directly tailored to landscape management and wider operations at a golf course. So we're providing some recommendations again about how you can reduce your emissions, reduce your resource consumption, and save money and become a more efficient, popular, profitable business through these scorecards. Just a brief note that the scorecards and the reporting can be done at a group level as well. So if there are any management groups, you are responsible for a number of golf facilities. If all those golf facilities put their data into OnCourse, we can do a group level report to again show your impact at an organizational level and provide strategic recommendations at that organizational level as well. So just a brief note that can be scaled up into organizational or national level in terms of sustainability reporting as well. The next step is to get recognized. So through OnCourse, you can then apply to become GEO certified. GEO certified is the most widely recognized sustainability distinction certification in the golf sector. It's fully ISO code compliant, which means that it's really highly credible and highly robust in terms of the procedures and the methodology that's used to certify golf courses. And we at GEO Foundation, who steward the certification, are part of the ICL community, and ICL essentially certify the certifiers. So the GEO stands up against some really, really reputable global distinctions like Fair Trade, Better Cotton, Marine Stewardship Council. So these are the sorts of ecolabels that you'll see on your clothes, on your food, as you're in the supermarket. So it's a really, really credible and robust distinction, and it's well worth celebrating if you reach that stage of your sustainability journey. When you get certified, you get a nice certificate. You can also purchase flags to go up at your golf facility. The certification may also help to support with press releases. So if you want to do a wider press release around the certification, we're always more than happy to support that process. Scottish Golf, I'm sure, again, are looking to advocate and showcase clubs that have reached this certification stage, so they'd also be happy to back any future publicity around the certifications as well. The certification also comes with a nice marketing guide that explains how you can make the most of it, how you can use social media, how you can tailor your website to illustrate what you've done, how you can use it in newsletters, press releases, and all that sorts of stuff. So there's a lot of support that comes alongside that certification to help you make the most of it. As I previously mentioned, the certifications gets added onto your Sustainable Golf Leaderboard page. You'll see the middle section there, shows that Glen Eagles are GEO certified. They've got their GEO certified logo. They've got the dates of when they were certified, and it's also got the certification report that will come on to later in this presentation as well. Just to illustrate that leaderboard is a fully publicly accessible and searchable directory. So your club will basically appear on a large global map where people can search for you, they can delve into your profile, and then they can look at when you've been certified. So again, great way of generating some publicity around your golf facility on how you're taking positive action for sustainability in the climate. Briefly as well, I'll come on to the highlights. So when you get your profile page, you can also submit examples of projects and practices that you've undertaken at your facility, and they'll also appear at the bottom of your profile page. This highlights hub has over 2,000 examples from around the world, and it's fully searchable, free to use. So this is walking through it for you. You can filter by certain topic areas. You can filter by location, so you can essentially search for just examples within Scotland. And any examples that you've submitted will appear on this directory. Again, great way to showcase the progress that you're making at your golf facility, the impacts that you're having, and also a great way to learn from others as well. So I'd encourage everyone to visit that Highlights Hub and to share their own highlights on their Sustainable Golf Leaderboard page. Great way, again, of boosting your reputation and gaining further recognition for your golf facility. And with that, I will now pass on to Caitlin, who has recently worked through the on-course programme. Caitlin has, as you'll see at Renaissance Club, their own Sustainable Golf Leaderboard page, and they recently had their verification for their second GEO certification. So over to you, Caitlin, if you can provide any tips, testimonials, or just information on how you've used these programmes to develop sustainability projects and practices at your own facility.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here today, talking about Renaissance and their sustainability journey. We are a fairly new course in the golfing world, opening in just 2008. But upon construction here, we tried to retain a lot of the natural landscape and ecological features that were already here. And all the materials used for construction were sourced on site, which is already pretty good in the sustainability world. We began hosting tournaments and had our first Genesis Scottish Open in 2019. But a year prior to this, we applied for our first GEO certification. So we were certified from 2018 to 2021. This was before I worked here, so I didn't have any involvement in that first initial certification process. But I know that we did adopt a sustainability policy to always be embracing sustainable best practices in golf course and clubhouse operations. So our verification came up for renewal towards I think it was 2021, but COVID kind of got in the way. So towards the end of last year, I initially worked in the food and beverage department. And because I had studied geography at uni, I got a position transfer to take on our certification process. So that ultimately led to me being appointed as a full-time sustainability coordinator here at Renaissance. And it's this kind of appointment that shows the club's aim to be better in sustainability and kind of our operations on the golf course and the clubhouse within the community. And I think that doing these sorts of things and getting the certification, it just shows that there's huge potential for lots of clubs to be doing this, and for lots of clubs to become leaders in sustainability. I am lucky that I've already spoken to various leaders who are doing well on their sustainability journey, such as Craig from Carnoustie. We've been over to Hersala Golf in Finland and up to St Andrews to visit them as well. And I think it's like so important to just be able to gain expert insight on how to be better. So moving on to kind of our use of OnCourse, we used OnCourse to process of the recertification, and I thought that the whole portal is structured really well. I thought it was really easy to navigate, and it was a straightforward and organized way to gather all our data in one place. Splitting everything into the three main categories, sorry, and further groups within that, like biodiversity, waste, charity, really enabled us to track sustainability at a range of different angles, but still have everything in the one place. And as Robbie was saying, like annual data allows us to compare our figures, establish trends, and make better informed decisions going forward. And it's such a bonus that they're doing the carbon footprint report and sustainability scorecards, because it really puts everything in one place where you can see what you're doing well and what you need to work on. And it is a really easy way to share information with the relevant people in your organization, with further afield, with our members, with the public, and things like that. So it's just been so good to have everything in the one place. We did get certified around 2 weeks ago, and it was a lot more laid back than what I anticipated. We had Carolyn Headley from Eco Impact Sports, and she was so enthusiastic and, importantly, passionate about sustainability within golf. And her positive energy just made everything so relaxed on the day. But the process was pretty good. We just sat and sifted through all our data that we had input into OnCourse, and she asked any questions that she had. Maybe things weren't explained clear, or she just had a few things which she needed to brush up. So that took up a big bulk of the day. And it was good because she was pointing out things that maybe we had written down that could be a highlight that we didn't realize could be a highlight, and things like that. So there's such an importance in showcasing what you're doing, which I think is really nice as well. She then spoke to the head chef and the head pro about the running of their departments and just various aspects of things like waste management. Obviously, when you've got a big operation like golf clubs do, there's a lot of different things, like not small, but just different aspects of the organization that need to kind of be focused on. So it was good for her to speak and give some tips on how we can do better in those sorts of areas. And we had a little drive over the course, and she came down to the sheds and looked at our mechanics workshop. She looked at all our machinery and stuff, and just had a good feel for what we're doing down here, and just ensuring that everything she had seen matched up with what we're doing. So it was a really good process. And as far as I'm aware, like, a report, and we'll get kind of pointers and her recommendations too. So it's good for her to see firsthand what we're doing and where we can improve and things like that. Which brings me kind of on to what we're going to use our certification for. So I think for us, we just need, and for any golf course, you want to better understand where you're at in terms of what you're doing and what you can always do better. And the information that we take will be used to see where we can go forward. And I think what I've learned as well throughout this whole process is, like, you're never going to be perfect. There's always going to be things you can improve upon, but it's a continuous improvement, which is good because the to-do list will just keep getting bigger. But it's important for us to look at our strengths and see what we're good at and take on board our improvements and where we can do better. And it just means that we can tailor a lot of action plans specific to what we can kind of improve upon. And then hopefully when it comes to the next year of annual data, we'll start to see figures decreasing and, trends becoming apparent of what we've done well and what we're still trying to work on. Because for us and a lot of other golf courses, we're ultimately trying to become better. So it's just a good way to, create the projects that you need to be doing to get to where you want to be. Um, and so far, I think as a club, we've been involved in a few beach cleans in the week of the Scottish Open. Um, as far as like I've been in the post, I've had the bulk of my time taken up by the GEO certification. However, I have done a couple of talks with students from my old university who were graduating in geography, and I'm kind of trying to show this route to go down, because when I was at university I didn't know that there was like careers in sports sustainability. I think like a common theme for geography graduates is becoming a teacher and things like that, and that was the route that I was going to go down until this project came up. So it was quite nice to see that there's just this whole world of sustainability coming up in sports, that it is upcoming and it is exciting and it's so fun to be a part of. And now I can't imagine myself doing anything else. So it's nice to inspire them into an industry that they might not know is there. Um, and we are like trying to now focus on our smaller sort of projects before the Scottish Open. Um, we're planting a wildflower meadow to, increase the pollinators on site, and we want to get some specialists in to complete some wildlife surveys to like better inform, installation of bird and bat boxes, and, see where we can preserve some habitats and things like that. So, when you're going through the GEO on course portal, you can really see, like, it's just a good breakdown of the different components of a golf course facility, because again, there's things that when I was working in food and beverage I would never have thought about existed, different habitats and things like that. So it's nice to be involved in, increasing them and making sure that it can get better. And I think roles like mine can be beneficial to any club, um, because CEOs and course managers and things, they have a lot of responsibility as it is. So when you chuck on a verification process and things, it can get a bit overwhelming, or they might not be able to dedicate as much time to it. But for me, I'm able to, gather data from lots of different departments, continuously improve on our progress, and oversee it as one and spend a lot of time on it. So it's good to see clubs, giving sustainability the recognition that it deserves in the industry. And here's a big site, but I'm really happy to be part of the challenge, especially with the Scottish Open happening soon. And once we get our report back from GEO, we can really dig into our recommendations, and tackle things head on, and hopefully be a good part of the way that sustainability is uprising in the golf industry and make it something special. Yeah, that's all I got.
Thank you very much, Caitlin. Really appreciate that. And I thought that was just a really good, practical, first-hand account of a certification. Sometimes I can sit and give an overview of certification. Sometimes it might strike clubs as being this big, intimidating thing, but really appreciate you talked about the mechanics of it and how Carolyn, an expert in energy efficiency, came to the facility. She just sat down with you and had a chat, and it was really informal. It was really energetic. So really appreciate that take on the certification, and how clubs of kind of every size and every budget can access the platform. Even if they're not going for certification, they can use on course to structure different projects just to understand where they're at, to get a grasp on sustainability and start to build momentum as they move further through the platform. So really appreciate it, Caitlin. And Renaissance have done a fantastic job of, you've done a fantastic job of getting through on course and working towards certification. So huge kudos there.
Really oh,
Robbie, if I can just jump in here, great, Caitlin. Thanks for sharing your experience, and that's fantastic. Renaissance, obviously a very big golf club, hosts the Genesis Scottish Open, but what you did through on course and geo certification, I think it's important to point out that any club can do that. The on course option for your smaller volunteer-run golf course is super useful in the basis that all the information is there. It's like you will think of things that your golf club is doing, but then you won't realize that you're already doing many other things that you wouldn't have necessarily pigeonholed in that sustainability category. Clubs quite often, Robbie, don't realize they're doing lots of good things until they actually sit down and benchmark it and go through the checklist that On-Course provides. So that's really useful. You're obviously in a full-time role at Renaissance as well. But we're very keen at Scottish Golf and through the GEO Foundation to encourage all levels of clubs to even have a sustainability champion at the club. Somebody who can be on the committee or somebody who's just interested in that side of things. As you say, it could be overwhelming for the club manager or secretary to take on board that work, but if there's somebody at the club who's genuinely interested in that side of things, who might embrace it and be willing to take part in On-Course, that's the kind of thing that we would encourage as well. So I think the On-Course thing is really useful for all clubs from all spectrums, from clubs like Renaissance right down to your very, very small volunteer-run community clubs in a rural setting, that they can all benefit from using On-Course.
Absolutely. And I think they're fantastic points, Ian. And again, I've got a kind of international global overview at GEO, and I've seen the volunteer position, the sustainability champion position, even a sustainability committee work really well at a lot of golf courses. So just getting through the program on a volunteer basis is very, very feasible for most golf courses. And also through our partnership with Scottish Golf at GEO Foundation, we're also available to provide some support to golf courses in getting through On-Course. So please, at the end, I'll provide emails. So anyone that wants to get involved in the platform, please give me a shout, and we're happy to support wherever we can. As I'll come on to at the end of the next section of the presentation, there's also lots of guidance and resources and tools embedded into On-Course, and that provides tips on how you can start to create a sustainability committee, how you can gather that data, how you can delegate different responsibilities throughout the golf course to get through the platform as effectively as possible. So there's really a ton of support for golf facilities of every size and budget, as Ian mentioned.
Robbie, there's a question. Peter, who's joined us live, has put a question. I don't know if you can see it in the Q&A chat. If you don't have access to that, I'll read it out. Peter's saying, since the goal is sustainability, should golf carry out research on a sustainable profile that is in equilibrium with its environment and then measure surface performance criteria? With this data collated, could and should these findings be accepted as the optimum for golf as dictated by the natural environment? Don't know if your thoughts on that, or it's something you want to digest and we can get back to Peter on after the webinar.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you for your question, Peter. So I'm going to come on to the end of this presentation, the RNA's Golf Course 2030 programme. So the RNA are funding a lot of research programmes all across the world around things like surface performance, sustainability profiling, water, climate change. So we can have that conversation at the tail end of this presentation, and we can just kind of walk through or talk through some of the projects that the RNA have underway. But certainly, Peter, I think I've got your email, so I can follow up with you on that directly as well, following the webinar. Brilliant. So we'll close the session with a section on planning and improving through the certification. Now, previously, certification was seen as a kind of end goal for golf facilities. You got certified, then you forgot about the certification and then picked it up in 3 years' time when you were due to be recertified. But we've done a lot of work at GEO to embed planning and continuous improvement into this pathway. And Caitlin alluded to it when she talks about Caroline producing a report and giving them kind of improvement points to work towards following the certification. So when you get your third-party verification through the certification, you'll essentially get an expert that comes to the site. They're totally third-party and independent of GEO Foundation. We train the verifiers, but they then conduct the site audits and come back to us with their recommendation. And those verifiers can be from a number of different areas. It could be experts in agronomy, it could be experts in ecology, waste management, energy efficiency. You're really able to tap into a good pool of expertise through the verification and certification. And when the verifier compiles a report following their site visit, they usually spend around 6 hours at the golf course. Around 3 hours of that is actually on the landscape, and then the other 3 hours is divided between the clubhouse and the maintenance facility. And they'll be looking across key areas like nature, resources, community, and climate, and developing continuous improvement points for you as a golf facility. And you can then take those improvement points and start to plan further progress for your recertification. So that concept of continuous improvement is really embedded into the pathway, the tools, and the certification scheme. And that on the right-hand side, this is essentially what a certification report looks like that you'll get back. This is just one section of it from Royal Burgess, who are recently certified. And you'll see, you might not be able to see it on the screen, but there are improvement points written in and bolded in that certification report. Alan's an expert in energy and social return on investment, so he's a really, really credible, renowned verifier. So he went to Royal Burgess, spent 6 hours with them, developed a report, and then gave them improvement points to action into the future for their recertification. We're also at GEO working to develop what we're calling a stroke saver action planner. So this essentially coincides with the scorecard. So you get your scorecard with your metrics and how you're performing, and we're then developing a stroke saver to help you perform better or to score better. So this stroke saver will essentially be based on the best practice checklists that you've completed on course. So we'll identify some of the practices that you've not ticked off and give you really practical technical guidance on how you can start to implement those practices. And the stroke saver will also include the improvement points from your verifier and from your certification. So we'll build that into a really structured, strategic guidance document and planner tool for you to use moving forward as a golf facility. So really, again, bedding in that concept of continuous improvement and how you can continue to make tangible organizational benefits through the pathway. I would also refer everyone to the on-course guidance. We recently updated and refreshed all of the guidance that's on the platform. So when you're in the best practice sections, there's a read more box at the right-hand side. If you click that, there's tons of guidance in there, and it includes lots of highlight case studies of how other clubs have implemented the project to the practice. It includes resources out to some of the R&A's materials, out to some materials from different turfgrass research institutions from around the world. It includes different templates that you can use, so downloadable spreadsheets, downloadable planners, policies, strategies. So there's really a lot of resources bedded into this on-course program. And as I say, it's totally free to use. I mean, even if you don't want to go through and tick the boxes, using on-course just to get the guidance, it's well worth signing up for. And then again, I would refer everyone to the Highlights Hub. There's over, I think, around 2,500 highlights on there now from golf facilities from around the world. And you can search by specific topics. We're soon going to be introducing a search bar into the Highlights Hub. So you have a really specific query, like Peter, for example, you could put in surface performance testing, and you could search that in Highlights Hub, in any golf courses that have implemented a new technology or a new project or a new practice around that, those highlights will appear for you. So again, totally free to use resource. And I would encourage everyone to have a browse and submit your own highlights if you're implementing anything that's noteworthy and you would like to appear on your sustainable golf profile. Finally, I just want to acknowledge and reference out to other tools and programs that are available in the industry. So Golf Course 2030, this is an R&A funded research program looking at all aspects of sustainability. So the R&A have a lot of research. They have a lot of solutions available. They've got a whole water library with water solutions that are available. These are organized by costs. So what would it cost you to implement the solution? There's a lot of guidance in there on how you can actually implement it. That's things like rainwater harvesting, soil moisture monitoring, rainfall capture, all sorts of different things are available on that R&A hub. They've also got an interactive tool to help you understand future changes in the climate and how you can adjust your golf course management practices accordingly. So a lot of resources available through the R&A, and I encourage everyone to visit their Golf Course 2030 project resources. And finally, Scottish Golf. Scottish Golf work really closely with us at GEO on sustainability. They also have a number of business planning tools, governance guides. I know there's some workshop presentations available on the website as well. So I would encourage everyone to visit the Scottish Golf resources and think about how sustainability can be integrated into sustainable business planning. And also, Scottish Golf, I think you've got your whole network of regional development managers. So I'm sure if you're not aware of your regional development manager at your golf facility, please get in touch with Scottish Golf, and they can put you in touch and arrange a visit for them to discuss all aspects of the golf facility, including business, sustainability, player participation in the different programs and initiatives that are available through Scottish Golf as your national federation and governing body. And with that, I would like to conclude. Just thank everyone very much for your time. As I say, my email address is at the bottom of this slide here. Please get in touch at any time. I am happy to put you in touch with Scottish Golf or have a call directly with you on sustainability, where we can run through the pathway and do a practical demo of on-course. We can get into the platform and discuss how it would benefit your golf club. So please feel free to get in touch at any time. Massive thank you to Caitlin for participating in the webinar and providing that first-hand practical run-through of the pathway and how that's helped her in Renaissance to develop really beneficial projects and practices around the concept. And yeah, thank you very much, everyone. Happy to take any questions that have come into the chat, Ian.
Yeah, good stuff, Robbie. Yeah, thank you for that, and to you, Caitlin, as well, for providing the insights today. As Robbie said, this isn't the end of the conversation, it's only the start. So if there are other questions that you think of when you leave the webinar, or there's something that you want further explained, then please get in touch with either Robbie directly or us here at Scottish Golf. Only too happy to point you in the right direction and to support you as you begin your own sustainability journey or carry on with what you've already done. Details of other resources that we have are found on the Scottish Golf website via the club support drop-down. There's a whole page on sustainability, so there's lots happening there. You can contact us at Scottish Golf via club support at scottishgolf.org, or, as Robbie mentioned, getting in touch with your regional development manager. The RDMs are there in the 6 regions to help you. If you haven't already introduced yourself to them, then please do. Again, their details are on the Scottish Golf website. Before we go, can I also just point you out to a session that Scottish Golf and GEO are running at, funnily enough, the Renaissance Club during the Genesis Scottish Open. This event takes place on the 9th of July, Wednesday the 9th of July, and will be a morning session that will provide expert insights and open conversations across a raft of topics relating to golf's environmental responsibility. There's also the chance to stay on and watch the best golfers in the world take on Caitlin's course as they complete their practice rounds. This is limited to 2 representatives per club, and you can register an interest in this through the form that is on that sustainability homepage I mentioned on the Scottish Golf website. Okay, well, I think that's us done for today. Thank you for your attendance. Thank you for your interest in this session. And until the next time, bye for now.